Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。The rules-based international order. That is the phrase that the US-led West has used liberally over the past few years to skirt its obligations and create a safety blanket, allowing it to act as it wished without any pushback. But despite sounding like it referred to real laws, the term literally meant nothing and was just a way for the collective West to stand above the rest of the world as some kind of moral overlord. Well, not anymore, because that cloak has been well and truly pulled back, with the US now blatantly going against the International Criminal Court, who are seeking warrants for the arrest of Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. It's clear to see that the US is a rogue state that has no respect for the law. Today we'll take a closer look. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. The International Criminal Court recently announced it will seek arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as his defense minister, for crimes against humanity following the slaughter of tens of thousands of Palestinians, at least 15,000 of whom were thought to be children. This angered many in the West, especially in the US, because the International Criminal Court has up until now mainly opened cases against non-Western nations and leaders, the vast majority of whom were actually in Africa. Washington came out swinging, threatening to sanction members of the court for daring to hold Western democracies to account. Check out this from House Speaker Mike Johnson.
America should punish the ICC and put Karim Khan back in his place. And if the ICC is allowed to threaten Israel's leaders, we know that America will be next. There is a reason that we've never endorsed the International Criminal Court, because it is a direct affront to our own sovereignty. We don't put any international body among or above American sovereignty, and Israel doesn't do that either. Congress is reviewing all of our options right now. We have some very aggressive legislation that we're going to push as quickly as possible. It will impose sanctions. And if the ICC moves forward with its absurd warrant arrest or request, this is going to be an even bigger international problem.
We will be next. Did you hear that? That is Washington's biggest fear, because they know full well that the US has been the most dangerous, most prolific warmonger in the world for the past 70 years. That is a fact. If the so-called Overton window allows the International Criminal Court to target so-called democracies for their crimes, like that of Israel, then Mike is right. The US, who is the main supplier of weaponry for Israel's assault on the Palestinian people, absolutely will be next. And it needs to be. Netanyahu urged Western democracies to stand up against the ICC for the same reason. The Jerusalem Post ran with this headline: ICC will target other democracies next, Netanyahu warns. They continue: Western democratic leaders will soon follow Israel in being hauled before the International Criminal Court unless a way is found to prevent the issuance of warrants against the leaders of the Jewish state, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told ABC on Tuesday. Every democracy will be pulled into the ICC dock. We're first and you're next. People understand that, Netanyahu said, as he appealed to Western powers to intervene in an attempt to halt such action. So why is it that Western powers feel they're above the law? Well, it's because the US-led West is the hegemon and has been since the end of World War II. It's been allowed to act with impunity, to place itself on some kind of moral pedestal looking down on the rest of the world. Nothing captures that faux authority better than the term rules-based international order, a set of words clumped together and used in abundance by Western powers over the past few years, especially against China, who's been posited by Western governments and media as a threat to Western supremacy. The term literally became a pro-Western trope, code word for Western hegemony. Even my own government started using that meaningless term. Former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern used it without a hint of irony during a speech in Madrid in 2022. The Guardian ran with the headline, West must stand firm as China challenges rules and norms, Ardern tells NATO. In New Zealand's first formal address to NATO, Ardern dedicated part of her speech to warning of Beijing's increasingly muscular international presence. Muscular international presence. Wow. China has in recent times also become more assertive and more willing to challenge international rules and norms, she said. Here we must respond to the actions we see. We must stand firm on the rules-based order, call for diplomatic engagement, and speak out against human rights abuses at all times when and where we see them. But we also must resist the temptation to simplify the increasingly complex world in which we live. And to simplify the world she did. Literally, if you asked Ardern which laws or rules the so-called rules-based international order referred to, you would have drawn a blank. You won't be surprised to know that the term, despite sounding legalistic, has no legal basis and does not describe any set of real rules or laws. It's just an idea, a dream. Well, now the world is waking up. The UN, an actual international law-based body, shows us ample examples of the US and its allies going against the trends of the world. The UN held a vote in 2021 to make food a human right. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, there were 180 countries in favour and 2 against. Guess who the 2 no's came from? The US and Israel. The UN vote for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in December last year showed overwhelming support, with 153 countries wanting a ceasefire, 23 abstentions, and 10 against. So who was among those against a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza? Yep, Washington. If the world was a democracy, the US would find itself constantly going against the will of the people. As the world goes more and more multipolar, the US-led West loses more and more power to lead with impunity. Thankfully, with the support of peace-loving nations like China, the Overton window is in fact being shifted, and more people in the world are realizing just how damaging the US is to global peace and stability, and that there is another way. So what do you think? Is Washington's hideous reaction to the ICC's case against Netanyahu a wake-up call for the world? Will it finally show the world what we've long known, that the US-led West plays by its own set of rules to the detriment of the rest of the world? As always, I would love to hear your thoughts, so do let me know down below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.